Hello, my name is Kim Bushaw. I'm one of the family science specialists from the North Dakota State University Extension Service. Thank you for joining me in the second of a four-part series on engaging adult learners. In Step 2, we'll explore ways to make the lesson content come alive for your adult learners. You'll be asked to use your senses and perhaps think about adults a little differently. Consider all the ways you can incorporate the knowledge from your participants into each class you teach. Learning participants' names will be the quickest way to establish a relationship. Many instructors follow the old adage, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Here are the 5 principles of adult learners. We have explained these in depth in the Step 1 video. This series focuses on Principle 4, Application and Action, which is also called engagement. Adults live full, busy, sometimes exhausting lives. Bringing people together typically at the end of a day to sit in a dimly lit room, listen to a lecture, and watch a PowerPoint presentation can be the perfect recipe for a good long nap. If you want your adult learners not only to be attentive but also learn and recall what they've learned, make sure they're engaged in the materials and that they're invited to move, respond, and participate in the learning, as well as practice what they're going to be expected to do when they leave. That's vital. The following slides contain some suggested ways to do this. You need to decide which activity you will try with each lesson. This activity is called Once Around the Table, or Parenting Circle if you happen to be working with parents. First of all, choose an item that relates to your topic, such as a diaper for toilet learning, and stands out on the table, but is small enough to pass around as your talking piece. The facilitator or a participant volunteer acts as a scribe. Use a whiteboard, chart paper, chalkboard, or some other way to capture answers so all participants can see them. A question may be generated from the teacher or a participant. Write out the question for everyone to see. Each person takes a turn to talk and passes the talking piece to the next person at the table when they're finished. All answers are recorded on the chart paper to encourage less repetition. Parenting circles are popular with some facilitators. It's important to correct harmful suggestions without calling out the person who says the incorrect answer as wrong. A talking stick can be anything you agree on. In this example, let's imagine you're discussing toilet learning. You may use a clean diaper as your talking piece. Only the person with the diaper may speak. When that person has said their piece, they pass the talking piece to the next person. Each person can talk on the topic or say pass. Come up with a when would you stop question, one per participant, that fits your topic. Have evidence-based answers ready to share during discussion. Write out when would you stop questions, one per sheet. Ask participants to stand up and move around the room with their question. Their assignment is to ask other participants their opinion on the question and take notes from their answers. Do not write names of the people down next to their answers. This is just a way for participants to talk to each other about the topic, but not to embarrass anyone. Determine how many people they should try to ask before you have them stand and talk. Finish this activity by discussing each question with the full group. It's rather an informal survey or interview of class participants by class participants, and then in the end you have several possible answers that people would like to offer during their discussion. Add video clips or send viewing assignments ahead of time. Add video clips to illustrate a point, relax the group, or have participants see something from a completely different point of view. A variation would be to try a flipped classroom style. Send out links of short 1 to 5 minute video clips you will want your participants to come to class having watched. Invite them to watch the clip and send a clever note-taking sheet with the email so adults are likely to take a few notes and understand the main points before attending class. Sorting it out. This is a great activity when deciding between two alternatives or sorting alternatives into categories. Type the alternatives on paper and cut into slips. Type the heading on paper and back them with another color paper so they stand out as headings. Put the headings and slips into a large envelope. Pass an envelope to each pair, small group, or table. Alternately, you can make a game show game out of it by using much larger slips of paper, backing them with heavy paper, adding a magnet to the back, and putting them on a magnetized whiteboard for the whole group to sort together. Handwrite headings if you prefer. Write numbers 1 to 5, each on its own sheet of paper. Post these in the hallway or room where they are a little higher than most people's heads. What's best is if there is a straight line down a hallway or along an empty wall. Devise a set of 4 to 6 situations. For instance, how would you feel if your 4-year-old always wanted to help with meal preparation every time you started any meal? Read each situation and let people choose where they would fall on this continuum. Ask participants in the large group why they chose this number. Also ask someone who is standing at the other end why he or she would have selected the number he or she chose. Make sure there are no wrong answers by the way you set up the scale and the situations. It's a great activity to see how many different ways people can look at a situation depending on many, many variables. We all love to hear stories. When a teacher or speaker interjects a relevant story about himself or herself into a talk or lesson, participants get a little glimpse into the life of this authority in the front of the room. Because we often ask participants to share their stories with us, sharing some things with the group seems right too. By sharing, you also model what is appropriate to share. Alternately, share a short section in a book where you've recently read and ask participants to draw it back to the topic, or read a chapter a week of a relevant book. Adults in a literacy program were habitually tardy. The teacher decided to start each class period by reading a section of a best-selling book that was very relevant to the parents in class. She began reading at exactly 8 a.m. Students started to come to the class early just so they wouldn't miss the story. Scenarios are great because they allow us to have participants solve someone else's problem without anyone in the room admitting a problem exists. Work on scenarios in pairs, then combine 2 pairs for even more ideas. Challenge participants to come up with at least as many possible solutions as the number of people in their group. Pictures are powerful, especially when working with young children, non-readers, or English language learners. For this activity, divide participants into groups of 3. On scratch paper, ask participants to number their paper 1, 2, 3. Have them write their favorite food beside 1, their favorite subject in school beside 2, and a hobby they do or one they would like to learn beside number 3. Have participants think about a simple way to represent or draw each of those without using numbers, letters, or symbols. Have them each choose one for the game. Supply several sheets of papers and markers for each group. To begin, have the person with the shortest first name be the artist while the other 2 people watch and guess the picture. The first one to guess correctly is the next to draw. Repeat with the 3rd person as artist. If everyone is enjoying the game, have them continue with their other 2 topics for drawing. For parent groups working on morning, mealtime, or bedtime routines, this activity will give even non-artists the confidence they need to draw a poster or illustrate a short book to help their children recognize the steps in their routines and carry them out more independently. This Family Feud style review is a great way to review a few of the most important points from your lesson. Making this board from 2 file folders means you can label and close the file and store it easily for the next use. Make one for each lesson. I generally do this as a whole group game, but you can make it competitive if you like. Leave one file folder whole, type out and affix your answers, cut up the second file folder or colored paper to brighten it up, and cover the answers by taping only the top of the strips. Be sure to space it so your tabs can lift up and not interfere with the tab above it. Also, notice the small light pencil marks on the left bottom of the tab. This says the answer so that the person flipping the tab knows which one to turn up. I use a small rolled piece of reusable tape to hold the tab up during the game. Envelope problem solving. Make simple scenarios of common questions from your topics. Post them on envelopes around the room. Number each envelope. Pass index cards, enough for each participant to answer each of the posted questions. Have participants number their cards to match the envelopes. Now, walk around the room and read the scenarios out loud slowly. Read each one a second time. Ask participants to write a solution for each of the situations on their corresponding index cards. Next, participants walk around the room putting their index cards with their solutions into the correct envelope. Divide the class into groups, one group per envelope. Each group will take an envelope back to the table, read the scenario, dump out the cards, read them, sort them, combine like answers, and determine their preferred solutions. They may choose one solution, combine a couple of good answers, or decide on one to begin with and then a second one as a backup. When the conversation wanes, ask each group to select a reporter and report out to the large group. When you're finished, ask participants if they could see using this type of exercise to solve issues with their family members or coworkers. Experiential learning is more tasty. Ask everyone to pretend that for this exercise they know nothing about kiwi fruit. To show the power of experiential learning, divide the group by numbering off by 2. One stay in the room, and they receive a color page and some crayons. Ask them to enjoy coloring at their places. Number 2 is go to another space where you have whole and quartered kiwi in sample cups. Ask everyone to look at the whole kiwi fruit, feel them, and even try to smell them. Have people describe what they're experiencing. Pass the samples and have participants taste test. What is their reaction? Let the conversation flow. Next, return to the room with the taste testing group. Ask, how do kiwi fruit look? How does it smell? How do they feel? How do they taste? And figure out who has more information. The group who got to work with the real fruit is the answer to the last question, of course. This is why we offer hands-on learning to our children rather than worksheets. Help people understand that children need positive experiences to learn about their world. Try a Venn diagram and get participants up and walking. Pair up your participants. Ask questions based on your topic or just have them get to know each other better. I like to explain this exercise and then have them get up and take a walk together while discussing the similarities and differences. They can stop and write a note or two while walking, but finish their sentences once they return to the room. Give participants 5 to 10 minutes to have a conversation and work on these sheets. Jeopardy is a great way to learn content, build teamwork, or do a review. You will want to have teams or at least pairs to take the pressure off of individuals. Several programs are available online that just require you to fill in your information. I like the physical board because I know it always will work. I can use as few or as many pockets as I desire for the topic. I can Velcro the headings and change them to suit the topics, and I can write new questions or answers and have a whole new game for the next topic. Remember to write a good introductory statement and a strong conclusion. People tend to remember the beginning and the end. With that, we will conclude segment 2, but before we do, which one of these ideas will you add to your next training or presentation to make learning come alive for your participants? Think back through the presentation and commit to one idea. Consider how you'll implement it. Got it? Great. Now follow me to segment 3 to learn about some more presenter techniques and tips.